Hey, Chemo Sobbies, it's the trickster. Welcome to 30 with Tony. They don't care if you starve and they don't care if you freeze, but I do, and one way of staying warm is the locomotion. Let's rock.
Everybody's doing a brand new dance now. Come on, baby, do the locomotion. I know you'll get to like it if you give it a chance now. Come on, baby, do the locomotion. My little baby sister can do it with ease. It's easier than learning your ABCs. So come on and do the locomotion with me. You got to swing your hips now. Come on, jump up, jump back. Oh, well, I think you got the knack. Whoa, whoa, now that you can do it, well, let's make a change now. Come on, baby, do the locomotion. I chug a motion like a railroad train now. Come on, baby, do the locomotion. Do it nice and easy now and don't lose control. A little bit of rhythm and a lot of soul. Well, come on and do the locomotion with me.
Well, hi, my good Kemosabies. It's Tony D'Angelo. It is Thursday, April 17th, 3 p.m. Eastern, Ada Domini in the year of our Lord. So happy to have you here for another edition of 30 with Tony. I am so pleased that you are here. I'm so pleased at the encouragement and the enthusiasm that you have given me. I am so pleased at the energy and the carry and the reach and every single thing you've done. I'm grateful to everybody that contributes to this show, be it opinion, be it observation, be it criticism, hopefully constructive. But, you know, I learn from everything. Also, you know, our music contributors, I just can't say enough about. But that all being as it is, we're going to get right to it today. And this is something really that has been on my heart. We're going to do a little review of last week, and then we're going to get into this week. But this is something that has been on my heart and mind in recent days, especially with all of the developments that we've been seeing about what do people want from their government, because after all, it's supposed to be government by the people and not government by the government, and what's actually taking place. And the title of this particular show is They Don't Care If You Starve, They Don't Care If You Freeze. I'm going to say that again. They don't care if you starve, they don't care if you freeze. And that may sound brutal in its uptake, if you will, but I'm going to show you that I'm really right in what I'm saying. So again, thank you for being here. You can find me a number of people ever since the appearances on the Wayne Allen Root Show and on Patriot TV. People wonder where they can see me and find me, which is good. My wife's had difficulty finding me lately. Go to Google, type in 30 with Tony. Every Thursday, you will see a new show. And it's a very easy thing, at least for me, to follow. Thursdays with 30 with Tony, Thursdays, 3 p.m. on Twitter, actually X. I like to say Twitter X or X Twitter. So it's a whole bunch of T's. That's all you have to remember. You can also hear me on the Lee Elsey Show on WJJF 94.9, a station out of southeastern Connecticut. And you will find me there at 7 a.m. on a Tuesday morning, and all times are Eastern because that's where I am. But anyway, let's get right down to it. They don't care if you starve. They don't care if you freeze. I'm going to do a screen share, if you will allow me. And I'm going to go to here first. First, we're going to do some review. If you did not see last week's show on Connecticut, the Culture of Concealment, I encourage you to see it, not for me in as much, but to hear again the interview of the reporting of my friend and colleague, Jan Groskopf, Jan from East Lyme, caller on the Lee Elsey Show, about her experiences at a town meeting in Connecticut with several of her representatives, notably Senator Martha Marks. And as you know, I have been in the relentless pursuit of trying to find out what the hell happened with the cutting of the wires in the legislature. Apparently, that was attributed to her, and nobody's talking. Nobody's talking. It looks like an ostensible act of vandalism, waste of taxpayers' money, act of disdain, act of a mental meltdown. We don't know. But Jan asked Martha Marks, the incident took place in 2024, about, can you shed some light on this? Can you clear yourself as far as what's there? And Martha had a very interesting response. Martha had a number of interesting responses, to the point where I scratch my head and wonder how Martha got into government. I wonder that about a lot of people. I wonder that about Tim Walz. I mean, I would not have that man wash my 16-year-old car with soft soap and a sponge. I mean, he is an admitted incompetent, basically. He said he was a knucklehead. I didn't call him a knucklehead. He said he was a knucklehead. I'm a knucklehead sometimes. Well, that's sweet. That's okay if he's your Uncle Charlie or your neighbor or something like that, even though you don't want your neighbor to screw up. Oh, gee, I let the, I'm sorry, I let the barbecue fire burn over, and I'm sorry all your trees burned down. You don't want that either. But basically, you have him, you have Gretchen Whitmer in Michigan, who, other than being a somewhat attractive lady, I think she's like a female Tim Walz. And then you've got, our governor in Connecticut, King Governor Ned Lamont, the unaccountable. It's still not clear after all these years what his strengths are. I think his biggest strength is being married to Anne Lamont. And we're going to talk about the unaccountable as we go. But basically, I don't understand why people who are supposedly outside of mental institutions think it's cool to have a goofball or an idiot or a giggle master as, a president or a governor, not understanding the seriousness of their roles. I mean, the dog catcher in your town has a role. The first select lady has a role. And when it comes time to focus and act on a matter of business, giggles aren't going to help you. And being a knucklehead is not going to help you. And being laughable is not going to help you. But two things with Senator Marks that I find troubling. Number one, her antics as far as what she has said and her attitude towards her actions are incredibly, incredibly arrogant and disdainful. As they are reported. And the other thing is that the Republican Party of the state of Connecticut, other than, making a a joke about her once in a while or making a complaint is doing nothing to find out what happened with respect to the wire cutting. I mean, that was an act of public vandalism. That's another thing. That's another thing. Rosa DeLauro, who's become a cartoon character, another one of, ridiculous proportions, was walking around, I guess a number of days back, with a sign saying 8647. In other words, 86 means to do away with. It's a slang term, 47, referring to the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. In other words, kill Donald Trump. Now, I said that is a threat upon a sitting president, to which the Secret Service should be knocking at your door. Ms. DeLauro took down the tweet, or somebody took it down for her. But it's like this conduct of idiocy in government and incompetence and foolishness and making you feel good is all too prevalent, to the point where we're all in danger if these morons get close to any sort of responsibility, basically. So Jan asked the questions, we had the discussion, then we went into the culture of corruption in Connecticut, actually more accurately, the culture of concealment, where we as citizens are not supposed to know the truth. The political class does not want to tell us the truth. It's like, it's too much for us and we can't understand it and we can't cogitate it and we can't do anything with it. Leave it to them. They are the brainiacs in the room. And one thing, which, I will mention as it does come to mind, is that you'll have to go back and watch this particular show. But one of the things I did not say, but what I said in a tweet, actually it was last week, is why do you need, actually the whole farce of the Inspector General idea of Vincent Candeloro, which is nothing more than a smokescreen. Why don't we get 5 or 6, citizen college of cardinals? There's a number of people who are quite adept, who are quite observant, who are asking the right questions without answers, and pull them together, give them a period of 60 days to pursue those areas which they think are the most egregious. Now, every area of Connecticut screw up is egregious. The government is egregious. The governor is egregious. The state is egregious. But, for example, someone might like the idea of plugging at deferred pension liabilities. Somebody might like the idea of duplicity in education or redundancy in education, and streamlining, or shall we say, eliminating a large part of the administrative structure of the state colleges. Why do you need 4 administrations? Why can't you have one administration and 4 colleges? It's because to, quote unquote, kind of pass the box of candy around. I get that. But the thing I want to get at is take away that stupid nonprofit bar against freedom of information, and let's get in to see what's happening in Advanced CT and 4CT and the UConn Foundation. These organizations which are really, doing government business, but we don't get to see what they're doing. And as we said last week, and as we showed, everybody and his mother is in there doing something. We don't know. And no one wants to tell us. But yet, the Republican Party and Vincent Candeloro says we need an inspector general. I mean, this citizen group could do in 60 days, can literally, like Disco Inferno, shake the mother down. But that's the part they don't want, because they don't want us to see what they've done. There could be no other reason. There could be no other reason for that. I mean, if you think of it, you're a kid, right? You're a little kid, and you did something terrible. You created a mess in the bedroom. And what's the first thing you do? Well, you try to hide it, or you throw it in the closet or something like that. You don't want your mother to see it. That's essentially what's happening here. And you hear all this farcical nonsense about open transparency, open record. It is nothing but a crock, because the most critical questions in the state as to the difference between right and wrong and forth and back and air, sea, and land is in all of these things that they do not want for us to see. So I encourage you, go back and listen to that show. You can find it on 30 with Tony. But today, again, we're going to talk about they don't care if you starve, they don't care if you freeze. Your president, Donald J. Trump, if you love him, if you like him, if you hate him, if you can't tell him from Abraham Lincoln, he is concerned about you staying warm and is concerned about you having the lights on in your house and having all of that come at an affordable manner, at an affordable price. Because the man, and you can say what you want about him, is anything but a dumb man. And he knows several things. He knows that you've got to have affordable energy in order to keep your costs down in your home, for businesses to grow, and for objects to be made and produced. Now, in Connecticut, we've got an asinine, runaway, idiot, overcomplicated, nonsensical, finger-pointing energy mess. And the easiest fixes are the ones that nobody wants to do. Now, I don't know why that is. Or I guess I do know why that is. Because if you have a fix that, quote unquote, gets the energy to where it needs to be, you maybe won't have a need for your stupid high-paid bureaucracy or your board or your PURA or your regulation or your this or your that. But basically, President Trump wants to get the goods to you. Now, for all of you that are out there thinking about data centers and thinking about all this really neat stuff that you're going to do, the charging of electric cars, right? Batteries don't charge themselves, people. Katie Dykes, our commissioner of the Department of Environmental and Energy Protection, I think she believes that. But batteries do not charge themselves. Case in point, buy a flashlight. Go to Walmart, buy a flashlight, put a couple of batteries in it, and leave it on. You just take it, put it on your mudroom or your back deck or whatever, and just let it just glow. Maybe in about 5 or 6 days, the thing won't light anymore. Now, you go over there and say, well, it's going to charge itself back. No, you have to get new batteries. So that the resource of charging batteries is some form of fossil fuel. It ain't going to happen any other way. Sorry, you have heart palpitations in listening to that. But that's it. You're going to need large amounts of fossil fuel for electric cars, if that's what you want to do, and also for data centers. Now, me, myself, and I wonder how much data space you're really going to need as you go forward. The projections are you need these buildings and these bureaucracy. And of course, in Connecticut, nobody should ever come near a Connecticut data center because the Connecticut Department of Economic and Community Development is heavily involved in that. There, they can really earn their name of the Department of Economic and Community Destruction. I mean, giving them that kind of power is just borderline insane. I wouldn't be storing my data there. In the data safe state of Connecticut, you've got to be kidding me. But that all said, you need a lot of power to run these places, whether you need the room or not. Now, where are you going to get it? I mean, you're going to get it through Eversource? You're going to get it through wind power? I mean, Katie Dykes probably thinks you can do that, but I'm telling you, you can't. There's no way you could possibly do that. And what's really happening on a, whatever you want to call it, on a boots to the ground level is homeowners. Middle-class homeowners with decent salaries are finding it very hard to heat their homes and have electricity in their homes. This is America. And they can't do it. And that's because of the fact that stupid states like Connecticut have crudded up that entire process and sacrificed it on the altar of climate change. Now, let me just say this. I am not one for polluting the environment. I am not one for just serially, having smokestacks blaring, smoke into blaring's not the word, but throwing smoke into the skies 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But I am for reasonable protections that are necessary. You will never get to a point, it's just not going to happen, where energy can be net zero. Net zero is an absolute positive farce, because in order to get to net zero, you've got to do a whole lot of fossil fuel things in between. You might think you're entirely cool as you're, heating up your latte on a little solar grill and your e-car is charging outside, but you've got to quote unquote somehow get that battery to work right now. Maybe, might, possibly in the not too distant future, we will see a pure solar car. Now, wouldn't that be great? Or something where you could plug the car in for a charge, and it would take the same amount of time or less time than it would to maybe charge your cell phone. Or I shouldn't say charge your cell phone, charge or get gasoline in your car. I mean, I'd probably be the first online for that. We're nowhere near that right now, technologically. We can get there, but we're nowhere near that. I mean, I head down Route 44 in Pomfret, and I'll pass the Pomfret Town Hall, and finally they fix the chargers there, and you'll see somebody there. And I'll drive around, I'll do my errands, and you take the dog for a walk and do a bunch of stuff. And 45 minutes to an hour later, I'm coming back, and there's the same person, same charger, and they're doing the same thing. I don't have that kind of time. I don't have that kind of luxury. What could I do sitting there for 45 minutes? I like to read. I guess I could read. There's only so much I'm able to read, regrettably. I'm not a library rat where I'm taking books out and returning them. That's a nice thing to do if you can do it, and read them again, and circulate them and join book clubs and things like that. That's great if you have the time to do it. Unfortunately, I do not. But that all said, the impracticality is a killer. So Donald Trump, regardless of whether you love him or hate him, wants to get America moving. Now, how's he going to do it? I'm just going to do one thing here, if you don't mind. Okay, there we go. He is talking about American energy, and he ran on the fact, I'm just going to blow this up a little bit, if you don't mind. See it a little better, and so can I. Unleashing American energy, especially through the removal of illegitimate impediments to the identification, development, sitting, production, investment in, or use of domestic energy resources, particularly oil, natural gas, coal, hydropower, geothermal, biofuel, critical mineral, and nuclear energy resources. Gee, how many people had heart attacks reading that? I wish that on no one, but there's people in shock right now. And simple beans, common sense. An affordable and reliable domestic energy supply is essential to the national and economic security of the United States, as well as our foreign policy. Simply put, Americans are better off when the United States is energy dominant. If you've got to go to a hostile power to get your gasoline, you're in trouble. Case in point. Let's look at tariffs. And I personally think tariffs are a useful tool, because you can straighten out a lot by punishing offenders by doing the wrong thing over and over and over. And innovators will build product that can take the place of whatever the offenders have done. But that all said, let's just say hypothetically China has all our gasoline, right? Well, let's just say. And we've got to get our gasoline from China. I'm using China as an example. And we're in the situation now that we are with China. Now, we've got two choices. We could either sit there and do like Janet Yellen did and bow to China in this sickening gesture. I mean, thank God we have Doug Burgum as the Secretary of Energy and not that idiot, Janet Yellen. But I like seeing mature people in the cabinet that can actually act and do work. And there's been horrible cabinet members in both Republican and Democrat presidencies. I mean, King George Bush II had probably the worst group of people you could think of. That's another discussion for another time. The first Trump administration wasn't so hot either. But be that as it may, this is what we need. Now, it's like, well, I'm not going to give you any gasoline. I hate your guts. Or we're going to do a 400% tariff or something like that. So we're sitting around like Fred Flintstone and we're trying to run our cars, off our feet. And it's like you start to look a little bit different towards Donald Trump and energy policy. Do you not? Now, Donald Trump goes on. I'm just going to blow this up a little bit more if you don't mind. American energy dominance is threatened when state and local governments seek to regulate energy beyond their constitutional or statutory authorities. For example, when states target or discriminate against out-of-state energy producers by imposing significant barriers to interstate and international trade, American energy suffers, and the equality of each state enshrined by the Constitution is undermined. There's something called the Dormant Commerce Clause. We are all supposed to be competing state to state on an even keel. Some of the more idiotic legislation you see proposed in the Connecticut state legislature, like the regulation of AI and some of these other things, are direct violations of the Interstate Commerce Clause, because if you're going to regulate my business from using AI, but yet the guy in Texas can use as much as he wants, that is a direct constitutional violation. When that marches up the courts, it's not going to stand. And frankly, just about everybody I know, myself included, is going to see something like that and get a workaround and say to the Connecticut government, screw you anyway. As a friend was telling me, and they're absolutely right, the reason why politicians hate AI is it exposes them. It exposes them. They can come out and make a statement. They did this for years. They can come out and make a statement. It's like, oh, it's really great. That's whatever. And you're sitting there scratching your head, driving your car, walking your dog, making your dinner or whatever you do during the day. And you're saying, well, something doesn't sound right there. And even with Google, it would take you, I don't know, maybe take you 3 hours to figure out where this person effectively contradicted themselves. Now you could go to Grok or some of the others, and you'll find out within seconds that this person is tripping over their own feet. And the politician hates that, because the politician's currency is many, many times to lie and deny, both sides of the aisle. And what is a politician's job? If a politician gets into office, get reelected. Get reelected. Keep the gravy train running, in many, 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 the majority of cases. So let's move down on the Trump order. As he says here, when states subject energy producers to arbitrary or excessive fines through retroactive penalties or seek to control energy development, American energy suffers. Many states have enacted or are in the process of enacting burdensome and ideologically motivated climate change or energy policies, climate change in quotation marks, that threaten American energy dominance and our economic and national security. New York, for example, that great intellect Kathy Hochul enacted a climate change extortion law that seeks to retroactively impose billions in fines for compensatory payments on traditional energy producers for their purported past contributions to greenhouse gas emissions, not only in New York, but anywhere in the United States and the world. So, does that mean my poor little propane guy who brings me my propane so, Kathy and I don't freeze to death, are you going to hit him with a tax for all the evil he has perpetuated for his entire life? I mean, all he did was, sell fuel at a hopeful profit so humble homeowners could keep their homes warm and keep their kids from getting sick and keep their babies from, catching pneumonia and dying. We got to deal with this. We got to legislate these people out of existence. But I can go down the whole executive order, but I want you to focus on something here. The power of the president, number one, to have an executive order, and I'm just going to go here for a second. The president has the power to issue executive orders. Now, you don't have to like the executive orders. You don't have to dislike them. But basically, this particular article here from the National Constitution Center, which is very, very good, the constitutional basis for Trump doing what he did, say, for energy policy, is the president's broad ability to issue directives. According to Congressional Research Service, although the U.S. Constitution does not specifically address executive orders and no statute grants the president the general power to issue them, authority to issue such orders is an accepted and inherent part of presidential power. In other words, he the man, he can do it. Now, there are two primary sources for him to do it. The Constitution and powers granted to the president by Congress. There is a case, the Youngstown Sheet and Tube Company versus Sawyer. The president's power, if any, to issue the order must stem either from an act of Congress or from the Constitution itself. So basically, Article 2, Section 1 of the Constitution vests executive powers in the president, requiring that the president, for some reason, here we go, shall take care that the laws be faithfully executed. The president is also the commander-in-chief of the Army and Navy, as stated in Article 2, Section 2. The president is further understood to have broad powers in areas such as control and operation of the federal government, federal agencies, and in foreign affairs. For instance, in Youngstown, Justice Felix Frankfurter's concurring opinion made it clear that under the Constitution, the president has the vast share of responsibility for the conduct of our foreign relations. Rather than taking you through all these minute steps, guess what? The president is within his rights to do exactly as he did. And the big thing here that I want us all to focus on, because you've got people in the Connecticut government that don't agree with this. And I'm just going to find it. Let's just see here. We did read it over. But when you burden one state at the expense of others, it is unconstitutional because it is the Dormant Commerce Clause. I just want to get to that exact language again. The equality of each state enshrined by the Constitution is undermined. States are supposed to be equal. I'm supposed to have the same access to energy in my business as the guy in Texas does. I'm supposed to have the same access to computer power as the guy in Texas does. The Connecticut government believes that it can control all of that, and it's sure as hell going to try. And then they're going to try to make it punitive. They're going to try to make it retroactive. They're going to try to punish you as much as they possibly can for doing this. But you see, this is where knowledge is power and knowing your Constitution. Again, there's two books you should know very well. The first is your Bible or the book of your faith. For me, it's the King James Version of the Holy Bible. And your Constitution. Those are your two greatest weapons today. That have, and both of these documents and these books have been around forever for all the technology. That's where fundamentally our best weapons, in many cases, our only weapons are. But we go to Connecticut, and this is an article, April 11, 2025, and this is the Connecticut Mirror. Governor Ned Lamont, we're not going to change what we do. We're not going to change it. We're not going to change anything. If William Tong wants to go to Tweed New Haven Airport and strap himself to the wing of a plane in the guise of we're going to protect the rights of all people, we are not going to change that. This is, who we are. These are our Connecticut values, the values to be stupid, the values to kill ourselves, the values to put the rights of citizens in danger. That's who we are. It's kind of ironic. Talking to people whom I know live out that way in New Haven, and they are constantly complaining about the jets coming over their head. Now, you can imagine really you talk about environmental risks and things like that. Now, that was all okay. I'm digressing a little bit. That was all okay before Avilo said that they were going to start trucking illegal immigrants out. I mean, Avilo is a business, pays a lot of taxes, can do whatever it wants. But in the land of communist Connecticut, that's something that we cannot do. And they can't really do much other than cry. Basically, as Bob Swick said in his article last week, Avilo should sue the hell out of them for, violating interstate commerce. But here we go. Here's the brain trust. On the left, I'm going to bop this up a little bit, if you don't mind. Make you see it a little better. Here is our governor, Governor Ned Lamont, the unaccountable. He's going to save us all from harm like he did during COVID. And he probably doesn't have the money right now to hire McKinsey, but he's working out something. I can assure you of that. This is Ronell Higgins. He is the Commissioner of Public Safety, heads the state police. This particular lady here is Brenda Bergeron. She is the state police counsel. Looks like a creature of state. And to the right is your friend and mine, Katie Dykes, the commissioner of the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection. Katie wants you to have a perfectly green life. He wants to save you from all manner of any sort of environmental harm whatsoever. It doesn't matter to Katie if your electric bill is $10,000 a month. It doesn't matter to Katie if you cannot get gasoline for your gasoline car. It does not matter to Katie if there is a power outage and you can't charge your e-car. Katie's about keeping pollution down at all costs, even at the cost of your life, your well-being, your economy, your business, your kids' education. That none of that matters to Katie. And the most irritating thing about Katie, hi Katie, the most irritating thing about Katie is no Republican cries for her removal. Why? Why? I mean, is this the type of thing we want in Connecticut? We're going to look at that in just a moment. But I mean, obviously, when we had the whole eCar 2035 farce, I guess that was about a year ago, and the cowardly Republicans who wanted to take credit for stopping the eCar shall we say, mandate. And it was, guys like me getting on the radio, yelling about what this is, yelling about the mining of minerals for e-cars in places like the Congo, where little children are losing their arms daily. And the fact that, you can't even get the range out of an e-car that you want, and then they're incredibly unaffordable, and it was just this whole Biden-esque farce. When people started revolting at legislators, then they got brave. I mean, and some fat mouth politician, I don't know who it was, saying, "Oh, the Republicans stopped it." Whoever that sucker was, it kind of escapes me at the moment. I know Leora Levy said something. I got very upset with her. And she kind of ran away. But basically, it's like that was nothing other than you and I saying, stop burdening us with your stupidity and your environmental dream world and your wind propellers that will cost billions and millions of dollars and won't do a damn thing. And this fealty and respect for one Katie Dykes. Again, hi, Katie. But anyway, we've read the presidential executive order, right? We went through that, understand what's happening, understand the issues. Now, of course, what you're going to get in the Connecticut Mirror is, shall we say, a Democrat newsletter. I was going to say demo commie. Some of the stuff is demo commie, but basically it's more delusional Democrat than it is demo commie. The article is couched in terms of little Connecticut is going to stick its finger in Trump's eye, and Trump is acting illegally. We went through this, right? We went through that, the president's power. We went through the restraint of trade issues, but the Democrat world says that the second Trump administration is now attempting to go after state actions. Now, read this paragraph. on a day the world's attention was diverted by a massive meltdown of the financial markets reeling from President Donald Trump's tariffs. I don't know where this person has been, but the markets are recovering. People are getting used to the idea that America needs to be first. And the perspective here is, you are wrecking my world, so I'm going to do anything I can to make Donald Trump look like this madman who's just wrecking things. He's going to wreck the environment, and he's going to take away all the resources and. But he signed an executive order, which we just read, titled Protecting American Energy from State Overreach. Now, the order directs, we didn't come down that part, but we can do it here, Pam Bondi to seek out and potentially prosecute. Hey, how about that? State and local actions or pending actions that address climate change or involving environmental, social, and governance initiatives, environmental justice, carbon or greenhouse gas emissions, and funds to collect carbon taxes. It calls such actions burdensome and ideologically motivated. This author had a whole lot of fun with the quotation marks. But basically, the people that are here want to tell you that Trump can't do what he wants to do. And Trump's got the power of the executive order, and the motivation, as we said, I'm just going to get a sip of tea if you don't mind. The motivation, as we said, is to keep you warm, to keep your business running, and to keep your energy costs, affordable. Now, the person writing this article, the delusion ends for a moment. Whether the goal is truly legal or an exercise in intimidation, oh my Lord, to get anticipatory compliance from states remains to be seen. In other words, Donald Trump is this huge, barbaric shakedown artist. And he's there to shake down trusted public servants like these guys here and get them to cough it up and get them to say, yeah, we're going to do it. Yeah, I'm sorry. It's absolutely, it's immediately a confrontation. And look at these faces here. None of these people, I can't really speak for the Commissioner of Public Safety. It's not really his issue, but none of these people care about your electric bill, care about your fuel costs, care about your business. They want to preserve their kingdom, and that's what troubles them. And Ned Lamont says, we're not going to change what we do. Ain't that reassuring? Okay, unaccountable. How many more businesses are we going to wreck? How many more media lies are we going to see? How many more veneration of state governments? Republicans are very good at doing this equally. Over the rights of the citizens are we going to see? Apparently more, because he repeats it. We're not going to change who we are. Okay. While not mentioning Connecticut specifically, Trump's executive order, President Trump, sweetie, does call out states with policies similar to those Connecticut. One is the climate change Superfund legislation up for consideration, which would penalize fossil fuel companies found to be contributing significantly to climate change. Now let's look at that. Who determines contributing significantly? Connecticut's not a reasonable state. Connecticut does not care about the homeowner. Connecticut does not care about the small business owner. So if my gas dealer, my bottle gas dealer comes in with his truck and he's got a diesel, and the truck has exhaust emissions, and my neighbor, who say is this frantic demo commie, I hate anything Trump and all this other kind of stuff person, and sees that come into my house, does he make a complaint? And he says, this is a significant contribution to climate change and it needs to be stopped so I don't get a gas delivery. Where is the bar for sanity? I mean, does this look sane to you? Is this a sane group of people? No, these are people that just hate Donald Trump and want to preserve their kingdom. The unaccountable actually kind of speaks out of both both sides of his mouth, or, pale face speak with forked tongue, because he wants the Pennsylvania pipeline, as we've talked about. He's got no difficulties with that, because basically he knows that his whole farcical energy construct, if he even understands it, is entirely unworkable. But he doesn't want you to remember that he said that. That's why politicians hate AI, because you can look that up very, very quickly. But basically, as we come down here, what's a significant contribution? Do I trust Katie Dykes to tell me what a significant contribution is? Do you? And the Trump order, which I agree with, calls these policies extortion. And then also, the Trump order takes aim at things like the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, which essentially is cap and trade, which has a limitation on the amount of natural gas you can bring. Then what they do is they go to the lunatics who are dependent on the farcical non-solutions continually perpetuated by the likes of states of Connecticut, and said, what do you think about this? You got this one guy, Patrick Parenteau, professor emeritus at the Environmental Law Center at Vermont Law School. It's an email saying, Pam, see if you can find a way to challenge these states are enacting all these laws and bringing these lawsuits I don't like. Let's not give it any more gravitas than that. It's an email. Does that look like an email to you? In other words, if you do nothing but listen to these people and read these newspapers, and I read them for informational purposes, I am not a supporter of state-run media. How could I put it? I think a lot of it, for the lies that come out, should be starved out. But yet, I think you need to know, I do support several state-run media outlets just to get information. But basically, this is what you get. If I'm doing nothing but I'm reading this one guy saying, oh, this is an email, this is nothing, this is Trump having a bad day, don't be concerned. This boy looks pretty purposeful to me here. He's calling it a presidential action. And there's some other presidential actions, but I'm going to swing that back. That was so, and you have a couple of others. Brad Campbell, president of the Conservation Law Foundation and a former EPA attorney, says it's more political theater than it is law. I guess he's concerned about his employment. I can understand that. And then he has a sort of the condescending comment. I pity the DOJ attorney who has to come up with a legal basis for these type of challenges. Well, idiot, he just gave it to you because it's the Dormant Commerce Clause, right? They don't want you to know that. They don't want you to know that. Here's another guy. The president has no authority to cancel a state program or tell a state to change its laws or cancel its regulations or anything like that. He can't. He simply can't do that. What if it violates the Constitution? Mr. Gerard, Michael Gerard, he's the director. I'd love to get a job like this where I could just pontificate, half-truths and false lies. He's a Columbia guy, actually. He simply can't do that. Dream on. He just did. Of course he can do that. If Joe Biden was doing it, you'd all be sitting there and clapping and yelling and saying how great it is. Now, the Attorney General William Tong, here he goes. I guess he talked himself down from the airplane he was strapped to. The EO is so outrageous that we cannot speculate as to legal theories that may assert. It's like he's, sitting there in the movies chomping his popcorn, waiting for the blob to appear on the screen. We do not think there is any basis in law to attack an individual state ability to make the necessary policy choices to protect their citizens and the environment. Dream on, Bill Tong. He just did. Now, Michael Gerard, we looked at. We don't have to look at him again. You got another one. All these people have opinions. All these people are getting paid through something. The city's climate law initiative calls the order toothless. I wouldn't call a president using federal resources to enforce constitutional rights. Toothless, honey. I really wouldn't. But she's worried. What I worry about are purpler states and local governments. If a local policy is challenged, it seems likely that they drop that policy. They are scared that others will see the light and they cannot have their farce. That's basically what's happening here. We're seeing this thing crumble to the ground. So really, she says, this is Amy Turner. She says, I'm quite worried. Yeah, I guess if I was living a farce, I'd be worried too. So we move on. Now, you would think that the Republican Party of the state of Connecticut would be supporting President Trump. You would think that the gentleman we're going to look at in a moment would understand what's happening here, would have compassion for his constituents, that what's really happening is let's get cheaper energy into a state that really needs it badly and get rid of some of these things or lessen the impact of idiotic farce messes like Eversource. Now, here's another guy. Connecticut doesn't appear cloud. We'll get to that in a moment. He isn't worried. We're not going to repeal anything we have on the books. I don't see anybody getting cold feet because of the noise getting out of Washington. Well, that's all cool, except if the government wants to do something, it's the supremacy clause, and it's also, Wyeth versus Hoey, my favorite tax case, Fed Trump state. I mean, think whatever you want. Steve Winter in New Haven, please pay him no mind. He is in a environmental cloud in his brain of his own making. I've read about this guy. It's all intimidation, right? I would hope that the colleagues in the legislature would stay true to the values that make us who we are, Winter said. I think the overreach here is really at the federal level, where it's trying to dictate to the states what education policy looks like or what climate change and resilience policy looks like. Mr. Winter, did you ever hear of the Constitution? I guess not. You don't like it. Now, you would think the Republican Party would get behind the president and say, this is something where we just can't keep perpetuating these farces. We just can't keep perpetuating, these things that are burdensome for our citizens to carry. But fundamentally, you got to remember something. As we said it, I've been saying this a lot lately. We said this earlier. Politicians' big job is to get reelected. And we have some quotes from Vincent Candelora. We looked at Mr. Candelora last week, who wanted an inspector general to go after corruption. And, again, go back and watch this show and you'll get my impressions of that, which I think are well supported as to the reasons for that. See, they don't want you in their business, people. That's basically what it is. But Mr. Candelora, who's an attorney, so that gives him some legitimacy, ostensibly, points to the 10th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution that says that whatever powers aren't explicitly given to the federal government are reserved to the states. Yeah, that's absolutely true. The critics say that the Republicans are abandoning that. And Candelora says, I think the 10th Amendment could be under attack based upon what we're seeing. So in other words, he's lining up right with all those people that we looked at. All of the people whose food chain is based upon the status quo. The people who are terrified about a strong America. The people who are terrified about moving away from globalism and into America first. Mr. Candelora, as an attorney, should be quite aware of the dormant commerce clause, which is if you're going to keep putting businesses under a strain because of this idiotic, nonsensical, irrational climate policy, it'd be great if it worked, right? I mean, who needs respiratory diseases? Who needs coughing? Who needs runny noses? Who needs lung cancer? Who needs COPD and all that other stuff? But you don't get to this farcical whatever it is unless you burn fossil fuel. And the idea is to make it cleaner and make it more reasonable and to do sane things to protect the environment and not theoretical things. But here's Kendall Roy. He's just lining up with the others. Great. I understand why Donald Trump ignores Connecticut. I understand why Donald Trump ignored Connecticut during the campaign. If he had put any kind of a push here, we'd have a different senator in Washington, and we would get rid of that idiot Murphy, who, strangely enough, the Republicans never, ever criticized. I do more criticism of Chris Murphy in a day than the Republicans do in a month, basically. Go look at social media. And how many attacks do you see on Chris Murphy? It's absolutely insane. Go to social media, read Bob Swick's article this past Saturday about Attorney General William Tong. Why aren't Republicans calling for his resignation? Makes you wonder what's happened. Then you read something like that. This is a 10th Amendment thing. It's a purist argument. Well, if it's a purist argument, then you've got to have the same purist argument, with this guy over here saying, I've got all these restrictions on me, which are hampering my trade. I trade out of state. But, Connecticut thinks that's just fine. I've got to pay a surtax on my fossil fuel deliveries, which make my business uncompetitive. I'm not as fuel driven as some others, but they don't care about that because they want to be liked. They, being Republicans, want to be liked by, whatever they perceive the majority of the state to be. And of course, the thing is, don't tick off the unions, basically, and don't get the key people in government upset. And, get reelected. But he goes on, to the extent the federal government wants to look at whether a state's law is constitutional or not, I don't have an issue with that. When I look at this order and I look at it through the lens of Connecticut, I don't think Connecticut has done anything on an environmental level that is preempted by federal law. And I would just be concerned if this were used in a more broad sense to go after states. So in other words, he's lining up with these other people. That's just basically what it is. Don't attack my opposition. Don't attack my opposition party. Tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me if I'm wrong. Where Donald Trump, for whether you like him or you don't like him, wants to make energy affordable to you, the Republican in Connecticut is concerned that this is going to be an attack on his state. I'm going to do that again. Where Donald Trump wants to make energy, a Republican president, if you're keeping score at home, wants to make energy affordable to you, he's concerned about what this is going to do to the people in the state that are promoting this Botso irrational energy policy. So read down here a little bit, see if there's anything else that's the state's commitment to offshore wind is also waning. Yeah, it doesn't work. But read down about cap and trade and let me just, you're right, Katie Dykes. Katie Dykes is only concerned about emissions. She is not concerned about how much you pay. She is not concerned about how much your electric bill goes up. She is not concerned about your property taxes. She is not concerned about how you heat your home. It makes absolutely no difference to her. So basically, when the government comes and says these people are insane, we've got to get energy moving to make America strong, they want to stand in the way because they hate this man. Republicans in Connecticut hate Donald Trump. What's the secret? What's the secret? They never mention him. They never credit him. They never give him any due for things that he might do. They're just hoping he either trips himself, kills himself, somebody kills him, or the 3.5 years pass without, question. I mean, honestly, truthfully, that is, we're supposed to support our president. We're supposed to hope he does the right thing. And, it's, there's basically, when it comes down to making your fuel more affordable and making your life easier to live, you read it, right? You read it over here. I don't have to read it for you. Now, One thing when we look at that, this, how could I put it? Namby-pamby, puddin' and pie energy and tax policy, which is constantly changing, that the Republicans continually throw at us, actually started out very weak. Now, the unaccountable said he was willing to buy into the energy policy that or moving the natural gas. There's been a couple of Republican senators that have said, yeah, I think that's a good idea. Honestly, truthfully, they wouldn't have known about it but for me and several others, because the state-run media is certainly not going to tell them. And, they're not paying attention to that because they don't want to give the appearance that they like Donald Trump at all for any reason. So they want to show that they're opposing, but they don't want the O in opposing to become a capital letter. Meanwhile, we're getting raped in this state. Meanwhile, we can't pay our bills. Meanwhile, we're in total economic destruction and free fall. We are run by illegitimate idiots that can't think, but the Republican advocates the way that I just showed you earlier. So if you go back to January, they're talking about tax policy and how here's Ryan Fazio. State policies deserve blame for the high rates of electricity that every single constituent of ours has to pay every month. Yeah, okay. Why aren't you, which you may either, after hearing this broadcast, start championing, which you could have done 3 months ago, Ryan, the Donald Trump energy policy. And use the word Donald Trump, because he is the architect of what we really need in this state to become economically competitive and to keep our citizens safe and warm. So the Republicans, this is going back to January, Candelora, Harding, and Fazio present the GOP energy plan, and it was about the public benefits charge largely, and about Millstone. But what you don't hear is embrace of the Donald Trump energy policy. They're clearly not going to do it. And when they don't do it, and back here in January, they wanted to study natural gas. See, it's right here. They weren't even considering it. Expanding the natural gas supply to the state. Study. The unaccountable now is saying he wants to do it, but they wanted to study it. What's the big deal? Get the damn gas here. We need it. We need it. And when we get the damn gas here, we're going to have less need for government and Pura and Eversource and all this other kind of stuff. But you see, that kind of undermines their existence. Same thing happened with electric cars. They were writing these glowing articles about, we need to adopt the federal standards rather than the California standards for electric cars and things like that. The federal standards were the Biden standards, which were worse than California's. And I showed you that. They didn't tell you a thing, basically. They prey on your ignorance. And that's what really, really troubles me. But that all said, like an inspector general to investigate fraud. What about 5 citizens, 60 days, unlimited access to everything? Let's get to the bottom of it, warts and all. What the hell is wrong with that? What is there to hide? Oh, wait, don't all answer at once. But basically, that's the farce of what we're dealing with. And then they want to talk about tax policy. Ryan Fazio is running around saying, I could reduce your taxes $1,000 a year. Well, honestly, truthfully, why don't we have a 4%? We talked about this on the Lee Elsey show. If you do the math, you could eliminate, 3/4 of the Department of Revenue Services and just about every single sub thing, depending on complicated means of revenue construction. Just have a flat tax rate, plain old flat tax rate. Every single tax in Connecticut, 4.5% across the board. No preparation time, no considering, no deductions, no lobbying, no this, no that, no budgetary tricks. You could do that, but they don't do that because that removes their non-usefulness that they turn against you. Now you look over here. What are the feds talking about? 100% expensing. In other words, in what President Trump has said he wants in one big, beautiful tax bill is you have a business of capital equipment. You have a truck and you go and buy the truck. Say the truck is $100,000, ridiculous prices on these things. And you go and you gulp. And they say, well, you do get a 50% tax break with 100% expensing. Looks a little better to you now, doesn't it? Now, if the federal government is smart and they move aggressively on the tax cut, and you've got that happening, and you've got tariffs against the bad guys, and you've got good domestic production happening, man, there's no stopping us. But if you go over here, we've got to preserve the status quo. We've got to keep doing what we do. He's wrong. He's evil. He's the bad guy. And this is what President Trump is trying to do. Now, where I sit on Donald Trump, I am not a registered Republican, but I know good economics when I see it, which is completely lost on this cast of characters. I can't really speak for Commissioner Higgins because that's not really his thing. But basically, I mean, it's that's when you're in a hole, you got to dig out as fast as you can. So if you do this with spending cuts, and again, as we talked about, I believe it was on Patriot TV, the opportunity zones, having people invest in the city and walk away tax-free if they keep the investment, and getting the states on board with it would be incredible dynamite. But they don't want that. See, they don't want anything that's going to remove their usefulness or their purported usefulness to you, which fundamentally many times is uselessness. Now, I'm not anti-government, but I am anti, redundancy, bureaucracy, idiocy, socio-economico, politico, religioso, probinistico, stupido activity. I'm entirely against that. Let's review. Go back and watch the April, that would have been the April, listen to me, 12, 11, 10, that would have been the last show. Go back and watch the last show of 30 with Tony, April 10th, 2025. And you can find out exactly what's happening with how your government prosecutes things that are really foul in your government, inter alia, among other things. The presidential Trump order, or the presidential order of President Donald Trump, the 47th president of the United States, bringing cheaper energy to you and prosecuting against the states for causing that not to be. States like our state will push back against that. And when they do that, they're pushing against their own citizens, and both parties are complicitly involved. Because all these people who are yelling for climate change cannot prove to me, other than some specious garbage that Katie Dykes could do, that there's any great savings in how we are much better health-wise. I mean, honestly, truthfully, you're going to kill yourself if you don't have a job because you're going to sit, eat home all the time and be miserable. But they don't look at that. They look at, okay, the air is cleaner. The Bible tells you that no money is made from a clean barn, but they know more than the Bible does, right? The president has the power to issue executive orders. He the man, he can do it. And this is good stuff. And I'm all for it. And honestly, truthfully, if you like paying double or triple the cost on your Eversource bill, be my guest. I don't like paying more taxes. This is why we need the 2017 tax cuts extended. I don't hear one state Republican talking about that. Tony D'Angelo talks about it almost weekly on the Lee Elsey show, but I don't hear one state Republican talking about that. Why? Remember how they pussyfoot and pitter-patter? This is not a time for pussyfoot and pitter-patter. This is a time for positive progress. I'm not going to try to say that 5 times fast. And we need 100% expensing. Hey, Senator Fazio, you want to have a good tax policy in Connecticut. How about for 100% expensing, why don't you propose 25% to the state? So think about that. Well, my $100,000 truck now costs $50,000. It's going to cost 40. Because the state will give me a break too. There will be so many new vehicles sold, you won't be able to fathom them all driving it off the lot. They don't think like that. They don't think in terms of what is good for you. They think in terms of what they think is a good policy initiative that makes them look good to your detriment. And I'm going to stop this share. They don't care if you starve. They don't care if you freeze, because if they did, they'd be doing something about that. It's not rocket science. It's simple beans. It's there. If we're going to continue to persist in Connecticut in mediocrity, fraud, concealment, redundancy, duplicity, and spending money for no reason, we're going to. But it ain't going to be me that's responsible for it, nor you. It's going to be the political system that has done a great service in keeping themselves employed and keeping themselves, important at your expense. That's why they hate AI, because you can look at things and see what they've done, and they don't like that. As Warren Buffett said, when the tide goes out, you could see who's swimming naked. I'm not naked. I got a jacket on today. Anyway, breaking with tradition. It's Tony D'Angelo here on 30 with Tony. We'll be back with the rest of the show right after this.
And the
HMO Sobbies. It's the Trickster. It's time for a 30 with Tony classic movie review. And here's Tony.
Well, thanks, Kemosabe's. Thanks for staying with us. You know, I'm getting more and more of a demand for movie reviews, and I like doing them personally. I mean, I'm sort of all my film knowledge, if you will, is basically older. I haven't been to a lot of movies in recent years. Unfortunately, time doesn't permit me to do them. Time doesn't even permit me to see them on the Roku. But I have great memories of movies I've seen, and when it comes time for me to actually play a movie or see a movie in the background, I kind of like these old sort of film noir, creepy, suspenseful type things because it does two things for me. It gives me an idea of what things were like years back. And it gives me a lot of new information. You know, a lot of the rackets that I've seen in government, a lot of the schemes of King Governor Ned Lamont, the unaccountable and assorted cohorts, are basically variations of things I've seen on crime shows for years. I mean, you know, the bait and switch, the inside man, outside man, the pump and dump stock scandal, you know, things like that. It's there's only one devil, and as the Bible said, you know, the same devil, different year, and there's nothing new under the sun. But that all said, I'm going to share with you one of my favorite film noirs. And let me just do this here. And here it is, Crime of Passion. I watch this movie a lot, or I have it playing, or I probably almost have the dialogue memorized. It was shot in 1956 in Los Angeles. It was produced in 1957. It stars Barbara Stanwyck, Sterling Hayden, Royal Dano, Virginia Gray, and Raymond Burr, who some of you may know as the actor that played Perry Mason in somewhat of a different role. He is the inspector of the detective division. And basically, this is a story. I'm not going to spoil it for you, but this is a story where a detective meets a woman in another city, and they immediately fall in love, and they immediately start to have a life together. But the woman, who is a very highly motivated advice columnist for a major newspaper, does not find her existence exactly fulfilling. So she looks for ways to advance herself and to advance her husband, and actually question the motives of some of the other people who were there, who kind of look at her quizzically. Now, it tells me two things. It tells me two things. Number one, don't rush into major relationships. That's really I'm not going to tell you what happens during a movie. You have to see it. I'm going to show you a little trailer. But basically, don't rush into major decisions thinking that everything is going to be all right where you haven't done your homework. And it also tells me that one bad association with one bad person could entirely wreck your community, your group, the people you know, and your entire life. So I am going to strongly recommend to you this film. It's called Crime of Passion. It was made in 1957, actually made in 1956. Released in 1957, Barbara Stanwyck, Sterling Hayden, Raymond Burr, Royal Dano, Virginia Gray, and Fay Wray, who some of you may know as the girl in the hand of the ape in King Kong, made in 1933. An incredibly taut, tense, and well-acted movie. Let's roll the tape. Let's roll actually more properly, let's roll the trailer to Crime of Passion.
We've been reading those open letters of yours.
Have you been reading them?
Yes. All right, where
Oh,
is
I'm
she?
so glad you liked them. They worked, didn't they? You see, I felt if she were approached with sympathy...
Miss Ferguson.
Oh, I beg your pardon, Captain. You want to know where the Mary Dana woman can be found. Well, before I tell you that, there are one or two things we should agree upon.
Miss Ferguson, Mary Dana is wanted for the murder of her husband. There is nothing to discuss, nothing to agree upon. You say you've talked to her. You say you know where she's at. You'll tell us, and that'll be all.
make me.
Oh, now, Miss Ferguson, you wouldn't want to interfere with our work.
Never mind. Miss Ferguson, either you tell us what you know, or I'll ask for your arrest. Aiding and abetting a fugitive wanted for murder.
You'll find the Dana woman at that address.
I'll pick up a couple of local homicide men. You can stay here with her. I'm not through with her yet.
Am I being detained, Captain?
You could put it that way.
But if you detain me, Captain, I won't be home in time to fix my husband's dinner.
Miss Ferguson, about the captain, he gets excited sometimes. He didn't really mean any of that. You're free to leave any time you wish.
I know, but you're going with me.
Oh? Well, I wouldn't be much help in fixing dinner for your husband.
No, but you can help bring the Dana woman in. I don't like your captain. I gave him the address of an old hook and eye shop. By the time he gets back, you'll have the Dana woman booked, charged, wrapped up, ready for the trip back to Los Angeles.
Now, give me homicide, please.
Oh,
Quick.
you don't need any help. I'll go in first. You make the arrest. Might mean a promotion for you when you get home.
I want to talk to Captain Elias. This is Doyle from L.A. Tell him to call me when he comes in. It's important. Yeah.
Well, that's a cute trick. I toss an arrest right into your hat and...
Yes, that's very nice of you, Miss Ferguson, but you don't seem to understand. Elias and me, we're kind of a team. We were sent here to do a job together, and that's the way it's going to be.
You won't get very far that way.
Well, maybe I won't, but I just try to do my job the best way I can. Try not to poke the other fellow in the eye with my elbow while I'm doing it.
Oh, go ahead. This is be kind to the captain week.
Hello, Charlie. Say, Charlie, there's been a little bit of a mix-up. You better get yourself back here right away. Yeah.
Tell me, who handled you for helping little old ladies across the street?
Well, maybe you could manage the job, if your husband wouldn't object.
Not if we let him arrange it with your wife first.
There's no problem.
Oh? No problem.
No? In that case, maybe we better arrange these things ourselves. Have dinner with me tonight?
Yes.
Got to get you off of my mind. I know it's just a matter of time. You found somebody new, and our romance is through. Yes, it is. Gonna throw the picture away. You didn't love me any old way. You found somebody new, and our romance is through. Let me tell you, some folks' love is hard and strong. That's the kind of love that lingers on. Some folks' love is swift and fast. That's the kind of love that'll never last. But we had a love that was in between, and to me it was like a dream. We had to stay together till June. Had a problem wound up a groom. That's why I gotta get you off of my mind. I know it's just a matter of time. You found somebody new, and our romance is through. Listen to me. Someday this old heart of mine is gonna find a love that'll make me shine. Shine like diamonds and gleam like gold, and I'll find someone that'll rock my soul. I gotta get you off of my mind. I know it's just a matter of time. You found
somebody new, and all romance is through. Listen to me. I gotta get you off of my mind. I know it's just a matter of time. Gotta get you off of my mind.
30 with Tony Thursdays, 3 Eastern on Twitter.
Well, thanks, Kemosabe's. Thanks for staying with us. Hope you enjoyed the show. And I'm getting demands for these show me jokes, too, so I'll give you another one. Show me a bakery that's been hit by a tornado, and I'll show you Napoleon blown apart. I keep trying. They're going to get better. It's Tony D'Angelo here on 30 with Tony. Thanks, Kemosabe's. Thanks for staying with us. And we'll be back next week with an even greater show. Really appreciate your being here. Thanks so much. So long.